Sheff G had it all: the fame, the money, and a record label shaping the future of Brooklyn drill. But his rise to stardom came with deep ties to the streets, and those ties ultimately led to his downfall. Once celebrated for pioneering the Brooklyn drill movement alongside Sleepy Hallow, Sheff G now finds himself behind bars, facing a grim reality. From chart-topping hits to orchestrating violent attacks, his choices sealed his fate. Now sentenced and stripped of everything, the future looks bleak. This is the story of how Sheff G lost it all: his freedom, his career, and his empire. Sheff G received sentence for attempted murder. Brooklyn drill rapper Sheff G has officially been sentenced to 5 years in prison after pleading guilty to attempted murder and conspiracy. The 26-year-old artist, once considered one of the leading voices in Brooklyn's drill movement, now faces the reality of a prison sentence that, while shorter than the originally proposed 20-year term, still marks a significant downturn in his career. On Wednesday, March 26th, Sheff G accepted a plea deal in exchange for a 5-year prison sentence with an additional 5 years of supervised release. This decision came after intense legal battles, as Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez's office initially sought a much lengthier sentence due to Sheff G's alleged involvement in violent gang activities. Justice Danny Chun of the Brooklyn Supreme Court ultimately handed down the 5-year term, which many see as lenient given the severity of the charges against him. According to the Brooklyn DA's statement, Sheff G's fame could not shield him from justice. He used his fame to fund and direct violence, terrorizing our streets, and though we sought a much longer sentence, he will now be held to account, Gonzalez said. The DA emphasized Brooklyn's ongoing efforts to dismantle gang networks and hold those responsible accountable. Sheff G was among 32 individuals charged in a sweeping 140-count indictment, which included accusations of multiple shootings, illegal possession of firearms, and the use of stolen cars in violent gang-related incidents. The rapper, believed to be affiliated with the 8 Trey Crips and its subset, the 9 Ways Gang, was alleged to have participated in organizing and funding various criminal activity. Prosecutors highlighted evidence from surveillance footage and social media discussions, which purportedly tied Sheff G and his associates to numerous acts of violence. Despite the weight of these accusations, Sheff G's 5-year sentence sparked mixed reactions. Some critics argue that he received a light punishment, considering the seriousness of his charges. Others believe his guilty plea played a significant role in securing a reduced sentence. However, what truly surprised fans was the decision itself. Many believed Sheff G would be pardoned by U.S. President Donald Trump. The speculation surrounding a possible Trump pardon for Sheff G stems from a surprising political moment in May 2023. During a campaign rally in the Bronx, Sheff G and his label signee, Sleepy Hallow, publicly supported Trump. Their presence at the rally, alongside their vocal endorsements, left many fans bewildered. At one point, Trump even acknowledged Sheff G's signature diamond-studded grills, remarking, "I like that. I want to get that done." Sheff G took the stage and delivered a statement that resonated with his supporters.
They always gonna whisper your accomplishments and shout your failures. Trump gonna shout the wins for all of us.
Sleepy Hallow followed,
"Make America great again,"
reinforcing their endorsement. The interaction quickly went viral, with hip-hop fans and fellow rappers reacting on social media. Among the responses were comments from Fivio Foreign, G Herbo, 42 Doug, and Lola Brooke. One popular comment read, "We got Sheff, Sleepy, and Trump before Grand Theft Auto 6, amassing thousands of likes." Another user jokingly speculated, "Bro is trying to get pardoned. The idea wasn't far-fetched. Trump has a history of issuing pardons to celebrities and supporters." The speculation surrounding Sheff G's possible pardon wasn't entirely baseless. Trump has granted clemency to several high-profile rappers, particularly those who endorsed him or had strong connections to his administration. In 2021, during his final days in office, Trump issued a wave of pardons, including for rap stars Lil Wayne and Kodak Black. Lil Wayne, whose real name is Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., had pleaded guilty to a federal weapons charge and was facing up to 10 years in prison. However, after publicly supporting Trump's criminal justice policies and meeting with the former president, he received a full pardon. Similarly, Kodak Black, who is serving a nearly 4-year sentence for making false statements on federal forms to purchase firearms, had his sentence commuted. The White House justified Kodak's clemency by citing his philanthropic efforts, including funding educational programs and food banks. Another notable case was Michael Harry O. Harris, the co-founder of Death Row Records, who was also pardoned after an extensive lobbying campaign led by Snoop Dogg. These high-profile pardons led to increased speculation that Sheff G, given his public Trump endorsement, might receive similar treatment. Despite the speculation, there is no indication that Sheff G or his legal team formally reached out to the White House for clemency. Unlike Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, who had direct legal teams advocating for their pardons, Sheff G's case remained relatively under the radar. Additionally, while Trump has a history of pardoning high-profile figures, Sheff G's charges, attempted murder and conspiracy, carried a level of severity that may have made a pardon politically unfeasible. Furthermore, Sheff G's connection to the 8 Trey 9 Ways gang indictment may have complicated any potential clemency request. The Brooklyn DA's office positioned him as a figure who used his wealth and influence to enable violent crime, making it difficult for any administration to justify a pardon. Inside the 8 Trey 9 Ways indictment, the 8 Trey Crips and the 9 Ways gang operated in Brooklyn's underworld for years, fostering an atmosphere of violence, intimidation, and criminal enterprise. Their reign of terror eventually led to one of the largest gang indictments in recent history, culminating in a 140-count charge against 32 individuals, including rapper Sheff G and Tegan Chambers, known as Sleepy Hallow. The indictment, unsealed by the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, detailed a sprawling criminal conspiracy involving murder, attempted murder, illegal firearm possession, and a host of other felonies. As a rising star in the drill music scene, Sheff G had amassed a loyal following, with millions of streams on his tracks. However, prosecutors alleged that his success in the music industry did not distance him from gang life. Instead, it fueled it. According to court documents, Sheff G allegedly used his rap earnings to finance gang activities, providing funds for weapons, getaway vehicles, and even rewarding members for carrying out violent missions. His music and social media presence often included references to his gang affiliation, with lyrics that detailed street wars and the consequences of betrayal. The indictment stated that Sheff G did not just fund the organization, he was an active participant. Authorities tied him to planning attacks and ensuring that gang operations ran smoothly. While some fans viewed his arrest as another case of law enforcement unfairly targeting rappers, prosecutors insisted that his role in the criminal enterprise was undeniable. Authorities had been building a case against these factions for years, carefully monitoring their activities and tracking the intricate web of crimes that connected them. With members engaged in high-profile shootings, carjackings, and targeted hits, the gangs operated with a level of brazenness that ultimately attracted the full force of the law. The 8 Trey Crips, originally founded in Los Angeles, extended their influence to New York, where they established a foothold in Brooklyn's streets. Known for their ruthless tactics, they built a reputation as one of the most feared Crip factions on the East Coast. Meanwhile, the 9 Ways gang emerged as a local powerhouse, engaging in similar violent activities. Over time, the two groups formed an alliance, strengthening their grip on criminal enterprises and posing a formidable challenge to both law enforcement and rival factions. Their collaboration was marked by a strict hierarchy, with top leaders orchestrating criminal operations, while younger recruits, often teenagers, were tasked with carrying out violent missions to prove their loyalty. The gang's influence stretched beyond the streets, as they controlled drug distribution, extortion schemes, and fraudulent financial operations, creating a vast network of illicit activity. The downfall of the 8 Trey 9 Ways alliance was not an overnight event. Law enforcement agencies, including the NYPD and the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, spent years infiltrating the gang's operations. Surveillance footage captured members executing violent acts, while wiretap recordings exposed conversations between leaders coordinating crimes and issuing directives. Social media played a crucial role in the investigation. Gang members frequently posted videos flaunting their criminal exploits, brandishing firearms, and taunting rivals. Some even openly discussed past crimes, unknowingly providing law enforcement with invaluable evidence. Investigators meticulously analyzed these posts, cross-referencing them with reported crimes and creating a timeline of violent incidents linked to the gangs. When the indictment was unsealed, it painted a damning picture of the 8 Trey 9 Ways operation. The 140-count charge included allegations of murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, criminal possession of weapons, and grand larceny. The indictment alleges that between March 2019 and the present, members of the 8 Trey Crips and 9 Ways gang engaged in a violent campaign to dominate their territories, which span across Flatbush, East Flatbush, and Canarsie. Their primary rivals included the Folk Nation Gangster Disciples and the ICG Babyaz, and the indictment details 27 separate violent incidents, including 12 shootings that resulted in 13 victims, one of whom was killed. 3 of the victims were innocent bystanders. Authorities recovered 19 firearms during the investigation, and it is alleged that 37 different firearms were used in various crimes. The indictment further details how the defendants used stolen cars members in their attacks and allegedly celebrated violent acts on social media and in text messages. One of the most shocking aspects of the indictment was the detailed accounts of targeted shootings. Authorities linked the gangs to multiple homicides and attempted murders, with many of these attacks captured on surveillance cameras. One of the most severe incidents detailed in the indictment took place on October 21, 2020, when Kamondre Dekatu allegedly opened fire from the sunroof of a white Infiniti while others fired from the windows. This resulted in the death of Theodore Sr., 23, and injuries to 5 other alleged Folk Nation members. Prosecutors claimed that Sheff G later sought confirmation of the attack's success and shared news articles about the incident with his sister, Crystal Williams. Another significant event occurred on April 5, 2021. Alleged members of the ICG Babyez gang reportedly opened fire at Michael Williams' mansion in Short Hills, New Jersey, where he and his closest 8 Trey associates resided. In the aftermath, Williams and several co-defendants allegedly launched a campaign of retaliation against the rival Babyez gang and an 8 Trey member they believed had betrayed Williams by leaking his address. The next day, on April 6, 2021, surveillance footage allegedly captured a black Jeep Trackhawk, registered to Michael Williams, driving along Caton Avenue toward East 18th Street before parking on St. Paul's Street. Moments later, defendants Olivel Martinez, Tony Darden, and Kenrick Austrie were seen exiting the vehicle and walking toward the intersection of Caton Avenue and East 18th Street. According to authorities, the trio then opened fire in the direction of arrival, but instead struck 2 innocent bystanders, a 53-year-old man and a 43-year-old woman. After the shooting, they allegedly fled the scene and re-entered the waiting Trackhawk, with Williams serving as the getaway driver. The following day, Darden is said to have shared a news article about the shooting in a group text message that included Williams, Martinez, and Austrie. Furthermore, in the late hours of June 20th, 2021, and into the early morning of the following day, a coordinated and brutal attack allegedly took place, carried out by defendants Donald Ottowan, Joseph Crick Best, Victor Davis, Najma James, Ricardo Johnson, Markov Joseph, Amani Maxwell, Salaya Phillip, Shattuck Robinson, and Taylin Williamson. According to reports, the group targeted a fellow 8 Trey member whom they suspected of betraying Michael Williams. Using a caravan of 3 cars, they tracked the individual to Flatbush Avenue and Albemarle Road, where they allegedly launched a violent assault. One by one, they took turns punching and kicking the victim before forcing him into a vehicle. The attack didn't end there. The defendants then allegedly drove to the vicinity of Holy Cross Cemetery, where they dragged the victim out of the car and continued the relentless beating, kicking and stomping him as he lay defenseless. The brutal assault was ultimately cut short when police arrived in response to multiple 911 calls reporting the attack. The gangs often use stolen cars to commit these crimes, later abandoning or setting the vehicles on fire to destroy evidence. Witness intimidation was another tactic frequently employed, ensuring that victims and their families remained silent out of fear for their lives. The indictment also revealed how the gangs laundered money through seemingly legitimate businesses. Some members owned or had ties to local establishments, using them to funnel illicit funds and create a facade of legitimacy. This financial aspect of the indictment demonstrated the sophistication of their operation, proving that their criminal reach extended beyond street-level violence. The culmination of years of investigation led to the sweeping arrests of the 32 individuals named in the indictment. Law enforcement officials carried out coordinated raids across Brooklyn, catching several gang members off guard. During these raids, authorities seized firearms, ammunition, cash, and digital devices filled with incriminating evidence. Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez emphasized that this was a significant step in dismantling violent street gangs that had long plagued the borough. "Brooklyn will not tolerate gangs that endanger our communities," Gonzalez said in a statement following the arrests. He underscored the importance of breaking the cycle of violence and holding those responsible fully accountable. Many of the accused faced lengthy sentences, with prosecutors seeking maximum penalties to send a message to other gang members. While some defendants attempted to negotiate plea deals, others prepared for a prolonged legal battle, hoping to challenge the overwhelming evidence presented against them. With the indictment serving as a crippling blow to the 8 Trey 9 Ways alliance, law enforcement officials acknowledged that their work was far from over. Gang activity in New York City remains an ongoing concern, and while these arrests disrupted operations, they did not completely eradicate the threat. Authorities have since increased efforts to prevent younger recruits from filling the void left by those incarcerated. Community programs, intervention initiatives, and increased police presence in high-crime areas have been implemented in an attempt to curb gang violence. However, the indictment was considered a victory, especially with the successful prosecution of figures like Sheff G, who have gone from using the wealth and fame to influence street activity to being placed behind bars as punishment. How Sheff G lost everything. The streets of Brooklyn have birthed many stories, some of triumph and others of tragedy. For Sheff G, his tale is one of both, an upbringing shaped by the struggles of his Flatbush neighborhood, the weight of his Caribbean heritage, and a path that veered between music and the unforgiving grip of the law. His life is not just another rapper's come-up story. It's a reflection of a world where survival often means walking a thin line between success and self-destruction. Born to a Haitian father and a Trinidadian mother, Sheff G's early years were far from glamorous. He grew up on Church and East 18th, a corner of Flatbush where poverty and crime weren't just occasional occurrences but everyday realities. His neighborhood, steeped in Caribbean culture, was as vibrant as it was dangerous. From a young age, Sheff G knew the rules of the streets. Some kids had the luxury of a peaceful upbringing. Others, like him, were thrown into chaos before they could even understand it.
It's a struggle. You feel me? It depends though, like how you living. You feel me? Some people grow up in a different environment, a good environment, and they just want to be coming to the other side. Like that.
For Sheff, the other side was inevitable. Trouble found him early. Fights, run-ins with the law, and brushes with violence were all part of his teenage years. His first arrest came at just 16. I don't even remember what it was for, he recalled. Some stupid stuff. That trip to Central Bookings was his first taste of the system that would soon become familiar territory. His family, especially his mother, was livid. Caribbean parents were notorious for their strict discipline, and Sheff wasn't spared.
My mom barely beat me. It was my grandmother used to beat all of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Like with her hand, or would she use something?
Anything she find, pot, spoon, whatever.
The harsh love was meant to straighten him out, but the streets had a stronger grip than discipline ever could. By his teens, Williams was deep in Flatbush's underbelly, drawn to the 8 Trey Crips, a Brooklyn faction of the infamous Crips gang. Flatbush wasn't just home to Sheff G, it was also a battleground. Growing up in Brooklyn meant you were either prepared for war or destined to be a casualty. For Sheff, the decision was clear. He had to stay ready. You never know what's going to happen, he said, explaining why he carried a weapon at all times. One night, that paranoia became reality. He was being followed, the tension thick in the air. He walked outside, his instincts sharp, but he hadn't noticed the police stationed right across the street. As he backed out his weapon, they made their move. They just ran up on me, Sheff recalled. I dropped the grip. I ain't run or nothing. The cops, knowing exactly who he was, looked at him in disbelief. They was like, yo, you dead? He laughed. That arrest could have cost him years behind bars. They was trying to give me 5, he admitted. It was either 5 or probation. He took the probation deal, but by then, he was already a marked man. The cops knew his face. Every time they saw him, they'd stop him. At that point, I was thinking, maybe I should move, Sheff admitted. But where am I going? This is home. Violence in Brooklyn wasn't just about avoiding the police. It was about watching your back at all times. Beefs ran deep, and a moment of carelessness could cost you everything. Sheff G learned this the hard way when he got cut in the head during an altercation. The attack came from behind, silent, swift, and nearly deadly. But in the moment, he didn't even feel it. His adrenaline was too high. I didn't even know, he recalled. I just saw the blood and was like, oh, okay. At the hospital, doctors had to move his hair to even find the wound. Instead of going through the hassle of stitching around his braids, Sheff made a decision. He shaved it all off. Forget it, he said. Just take it all off. The incident only fueled his reputation. He didn't back down. Instead, he laughed through it, even going live while getting staples in his head. I couldn't feel nothing, he shrugged. Despite all the chaos, Sheff G had one escape: music. What started as a joke with his friends turned into a serious career. When they first hit the studio, they didn't expect much. But when they played the track for their boys, the reaction was instant. They was like, yo, you should really start rapping, he said. And so he did. Sheff's deep, almost British-sounding voice set him apart. In an era of Brooklyn drill dominated by GS9 and rising stars like 22 Jeezy, Sheff carved his own lane. Then came No Suburban, a track that wasn't just a hit, but a statement. The 8 Trey Crips to which Sheff belonged weren't just a clique. They were a brotherhood locked in a deadly dance with enemies like the Gangsta Disciples, GDs, including rising rapper 22 GZ. Sheff's No Suburban was a venomous diss aimed at 22 GZ's Suburban. The track wasn't just a song, it was a war cry, its booming bass and unrelenting bars igniting the Brooklyn drill scene. Overnight, Sheff G became a name, his beef with 22 GZ fueling a rise that turned street cred into streaming gold. Sheff G's ascent was relentless. No Suburban made him a drill pioneer, and he doubled down with releases like the 2019 mixtape The Unlucky Lucky Kid, a nod to his chaotic past, and his 2020 album One and Only. His deep growl and unflinching lyrics built a loyal fan base, while his videos screamed success: a Rolls Royce with a driver in Feel Our Way, cash stacks and Bentleys for We Getting Money, and a Wraith he might have owned in No Suburban PT2. Money drove him, and he wasn't content to shine alone. He launched Winner Circle Entertainment, a label to lift his Flatbush brothers. Sleepy Hollow, Tegan Chambers, was his right hand. Their 2019 collab, Flows, hitting over 10 million views. Sleepy's deep end freestyle in 2020 2020, platinum certified and peaking at number 80 on the Billboard Hot 100, proved the label's chops. Eli Frost joined the roster, dropping early hits like Situations, 2018, and teaming with Sheff G and Sleepy on Panic Part 4, 2019. The beef with 22GZ wasn't Sheff G's only industry friction. His 8-tray ties put him at odds with other drill acts tied to rival gangs, like the Wu-affiliated Fivio Foreign and the late Pop Smoke. While not always explicit in tracks, the tension simmered in Brooklyn streets and spilled into ciphers and social media jabs. Sheff G's Panic series, starting with Panic Part 2 featuring Sleepy Hallow, kept the aggression alive, with lyrics nodding to foes unnamed but understood by those in the know. His feud with 22GZ peaked again in 2020 with No Suburban PT2, a sequel that doubled down on the disrespect, racking up millions of views and keeping the rivalry hot. These beefs weren't just clout, they were echoes of the street wars he'd never left behind. Winner Circle's big break came in August 2020 with a Sony RCA Records deal, kicking off with Tiptoe featuring Sleepy Hallow. But as his star rose, the streets pulled harder. New York's strict gun laws clashed with his reality. 8-tray life meant enemies everywhere, and a gun was non-negotiable. On August 21st, 2020, police tailed him in a fire-gray Mercedes GLE 63 AMG. He floored it, sparking a high-speed chase through Brooklyn. Security cameras caught him smashing into a woman's car, skidding 220 feet, and crashing into a signpost and shrubs. Whether he bolted or was cuffed on sight isn't clear, but the motorist sued him for wrecking her bumper. It was a dumb move for a rapper on the cusp of greatness, but gang loyalty trumped logic. The law kept coming. On January 18, 2021, an illegal U-turn led to a traffic stop. Cops found a .45 caliber Glock with 9 rounds stashed in his ride. Felony weapons charges followed. He posted a $35,000 bond, but trouble doubled down on June 15, 2021, with another arrest for second-degree felony weapons possession. This time, bail wasn't an option. By November 2021, he was hit with a 2-year sentence, locked up as Winner Circle soldiered on. Pre-recorded tracks like Run It Up with Sleepy Hallow and a Boogie with the Hoodie dropped, while Sleepy's 2055 climbed to number 55 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went platinum. Eli Frost, meanwhile, faced his own heat. Arrested in July 2021 for a Times Square shooting after a dirt bike crash, he claimed self-defense and made bail, allegedly with label cash. Sheff G's crimes weren't just gunplay. His 8-tray roots tied him to deeper violence. Prosecutors later alleged he'd been part of shootings and revenge hits, though specifics were murky outside courtrooms. Released in 2023 after his 2-year stint, he flexed freedom briefly, even hitting a Trump rally in the Bronx in May 2024. But the past wasn't done. His gang, ties and beefs had bred a rap sheet too long to outrun. Petty thefts from his teens, the 2020 chase, and multiple weapons busts piled up. By 2025, he was back behind bars, facing years that stalled his empire. Winner Circle endures, but Sheff G, once drill's crowned prince, lost it all to the streets he couldn't escape. For more content like this, click on the video showing on your screen now.